Have you ever looked at Tapestry Crochet and said to yourself, wow, that's really pretty, but I can't do that because it's too hard for me? Well, this video is for you. This is Tapestry Crochet for absolute beginners. Tapestry crochet is one of my favorite crochet techniques because there are so many things you can do with it and so many amazing patterns that you can work into your crocheted fabric. But a lot of times it kind of comes across as daunting to beginner crocheters because it looks kind of difficult. But tapestry crochet is a very simple technique. Basically, if you can crochet back and forth in rows and color by the numbers, then you are fully capable of working tapestry crochet. You don't have to have a dozen colors in one project. You don't have to have some kind of fancy, complex design. Basically, all we're doing is working back and forth in rows and using the one color yarn for some stitches and the other color yarn for other stitches. It's not as difficult as it might seem, and this is approachable to pretty much crocheters of all skill levels, as long as you start with a simple design. So what I have here is my crochet hook, I have my main color yarn, and I also have my secondary color yarn. This is a piece of graph paper, and I have taken some colored pencils and drawn a very simple design on this graph paper. And as you can see, I have a reddish background with a blue heart in the center. And this is a very simple chart to interpret. Every one of these squares is a single crochet. So for example, if this row right here, we've got 3 single crochets in red, then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 single crochets in blue, and 3 single crochets in red. That's not a super difficult thing to do, and I'm going to show you how to do it, and I'm going to simplify it so that crocheters of all skill levels can do this. It's not as hard as it looks. Working with 2 colors is not as difficult as it might seem, because really you're only working with 1 color at a time. So what I'm going to start by doing is I'm going to start down here at this edge. The edge of where the red stops is going to be the size of my piece. And I'm going to start by chaining 13 because I have 13 red squares on the width of my whole project here. So I'm going to chain 13. There's my 13, and I'm going to count this one next to the hook as a single crochet, and I'm just going to single crochet in every chain stitch across. But before we get to this blue part, I want you to get used to carrying the second yarn, which is very simple. It's just, you're just going to be laying the second yarn over your work and crocheting over the top of it. So when I insert my hook into this second chain stitch to work my first single crochet, I'm just going to lay that second color yarn right up against where I just inserted my hook and crochet as if it wasn't even there. Insert into the next chain and just keep laying that second yarn right over the top, and we're just crocheting over the top of it. So I'm just going to single crochet all the way across, carrying my yarn. And this is like the hardest thing you do in tapestry crochet. You're carrying the yarn. You're crocheting over top of it by laying it across your row of stitches that you're working into. So now I'm at the end. I've crocheted across that whole row, and as you can see, that blue yarn shows through just a little bit, which is why we're starting it down here, even though there aren't any blue stitches in these first 2 rows, because we want it to be consistent. So to turn and work the next row, all you have to do is lay your second yarn over the top of the other yarn that you're already working with. So bring it to the back and chain 1 and turn. So again, I'm counting this first chain as my first single crochet, and I'm going to single crochet in the next 10 stitches, carrying my secondary yarn, just laying it over the top of my row of single crochet, And then I'm going to, when I get to the end here, I'm going to single crochet in the beginning chain from the row below. So every row in my whole design here has 13 single crochets across it. So you should always have, in this example, you should always have 13 single crochets in your row. So for the next row is this third row, which is, it does have a blue stitch in it. So what we're going to do here is we're going to think of the chart as we're working back and forth. So I worked the first row going from right to left, then I turned and worked from left to right. This third row is going to go from right to left. So I'm going to read it from right to left. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 red single crochets and then a blue one. So I'm going to chain one and turn by twisting my 2 yarns so that the blue one is on top of the red. Chain one and turn like so. So this chain one right here, I'm counting it as my first single crochet. So then I need to work 5 more single crochets in the red. And on that 5th one, this is how you change colors. It's very simple. On that 5th one, instead of pulling that last loop of yarn through to finish the single crochet, I've got it so I've inserted my hook and pulled up a loop, and instead of yarn over with the red and pulling the last loop through the last 2, I'm going to pick up the blue in my hand, yarn over with the blue and pull that through. So that is how you change colors. It's very simple to do. Once you've done it a few times, you'll get the hang of it. And now I'm just going to work my 1 single crochet with the blue. And because the next stitch after this is red, I'm going to do the same thing again. Pick up the red and yarn over and do that last pull through with the red. So there's my 1 blue stitch. Now I'm going to just continue with the last 6 red single crochets in this row by continuing to carry that blue yarn and crochet over it until I get to the end of my row. And of course single crochet in the chain from the row below. So you can see what we've got here. We have this 3rd row complete where we have worked that blue single crochet right in the center, and now we're going to be working this row. And the reason that I'm showing you to go by, working back and forth is because since we're working back and forth in rows, not all patterns are going to be symmetrical. This one is symmetrical, so it doesn't matter if you read it from right to left or left to right. But if your design was not symmetrical, then you would have to, pay attention to which direction you're reading it from. So what you can do is put little arrows on the ends of each row. So if my row 1 is going this way, then I'm going to put an arrow right here. Then the next row goes this way, so I'll put an arrow right there. The next row goes this way, so I'll put an arrow right there pointing that way. And then that will help you to know which direction you're reading the chart from if you're working back and forth in rows. Now if you're doing this in rounds, you don't have to worry about that because it's always going to be in the same direction. So now I'm going to turn and work this 4th row. And this one has 5 red single crochets, 3 blue, and then 5 red. So I'm going to again twist my yarn so that the blue crosses over the red, chain 1 with the red, and I'm going to turn and work 4 more single crochet in the red because I'm counting my chain 1 right here as the first single crochet. And no matter what you're doing, you're always carrying that blue yarn. So here's the 4th single crochet. I've inserted my hook. I'm going to yarn over, pull up a loop, and instead of yarning over and pulling through with the red, I'm going to pick up the blue and yarn over, pull through with the blue just because the next 3 stitches here are blue. So now I'm going to work 3 single crochet in blue, 1, 2, and always that last stitch in this color, the 3rd one, I'm going to yarn over, pull up a loop with the blue, then I'm going to go back to the red to yarn over and pull through both loops on my hook. So now I can finish the row with the red by single crocheting in the last 5 stitches, because we have 5 more red squares in that row. So now I'm going to chain 1 and turn, twist the yarn to make sure that the blue crosses over. That's how we just carry it up the side of the fabric. And then again, this next row up here is 1, 2, 3, 4 red stitches, 5 blue stitches, and then 4 red stitches. So I've got that first chain that counts as my first stitch. Then I'm going to work 3 more in the red, and I've inserted yarn over, pulled up a loop. Now I'm going to finish the stitch with the blue by yarning over and pulling through the last 2 loops. And again, we're going to be carrying the red this time because we're not crocheting with it right now. So whichever color you're not crocheting with, you're going to carry that yarn. So now I'm going to work 5 blue single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, and on that 5th one, as always, when we change colors, I'm going to leave it half finished and pull that last loop through with red instead of blue to switch to red. And now I'm going to work the 4 red single crochets in that row. And the more you do this, the better you'll get at it, the easier it will become for you, and the more complex patterns you will be able to attempt. So in the next row we have 3 red single crochets, 7 blue, and then 3 red. So I'm going to twist my yarns because we're going up the side, chain 1 and turn. Then I'm going to work a total of 3 single crochets, so I'm counting my chain stitch as 1 single crochet. So I've got 2 more regular single crochets, except see, I finished that one. I wasn't supposed to finish it, so I'm just going to unfinish that last part. And as always, when you change colors, make sure that you pull the last loop of the stitch through with the opposite color that you're changing to. So now I've got 7 blue stitches. And on the 7th one, we want to make sure that we finish it with the red, because we're changing back to red to work the last 3 single crochet. So again, we're going to twist, chain 1, turn. Now this next row, we have 2 red, 9 blue, and 2 red. So I've got 1 red, that's my chain 1. I'm going to work a single crochet for the second red one. And I forgot here again, we're going to go back and finish that second stitch with the blue to change colors. And that's just something you'll have to get into the habit of. And I'm going to work 9 single crochets in the blue. And as we get to the 9th one, we're going to finish it with the red and work those last 2 stitches in red. So we're now up to here on our chart. So again, very simple. We're going to twist the yarn again. We're going to chain 1 and turn. We're going to work another row of plain, ordinary, basic single crochet. All we're doing is making some of the stitches red and some of the stitches blue. So this next row is exactly the same as the one I just did. It's this row right here. And I've got my 1 chain stitch. That counts as the first one. I'm going to start making a second stitch, then switch to blue because the next stitch is going to be blue. And then I'm going to work across however many blue stitches I need in my pattern, which is 9 in this case. And as I get to that 9th stitch, I'm going to switch to red to finish that last stitch and work 2 red stitches to the end of my row. And again, we're just going to twist the yarns, chain 1 and turn. And this next row, we've got 2 red, 4 blue, 1 red, 4 blue, 2 red. So I've got my first red one, which is this chain stitch. Then I'm going to do the second red one, which is a single crochet, leave it unfinished, finish it with the blue because the next stitch is blue. Then I'm going to work my 4 blue, and in that 4th one I'm going to finish it with the red, work my 1 red stitch in the middle, finish it with the blue, and then I'm going to work the next 4 in red, or in blue, I'm sorry, and as I finish that last stitch, we'll pull through the red and work those last 2 stitches in red. So we've almost made the entire heart here. So again, we're going to twist the yarns, chain 1 and turn. This next row up here is 3 red, 2 blue, 3 red, 2 blue, 3 red. So I've got my first red. I'm going to single crochet in the next 2 to make the next 2 red. That's a total of 3. And as always, switching to blue, we finish the last red stitch with the blue. I've got 2 blue stitches, always finish the last one with the red, 3 red stitches, finishing the last one with blue, 2 blue stitches, finishing the last one with red, and then I've got 3 red stitches, like so. So that's the whole heart, and now all I've got left is 2 rows of plain red single crochet. But because we can see the blue yarn showing through in all the plain single crochets, the red ones, I'm just going to continue to carry the blue yarn as I go up working these 2 plain rows of red. And even though this design is pretty simple, you can still make some pretty neat designs that are very simple, very approachable. And as you get more and more practice and you're more comfortable with the technique, you can always increase the complexity. If you want, you can do more than 1 color in a row where you've worked, carry 2 colors and work with 1, or carry 3 or 4 colors and work with 1 at a time. But you can work at your own pace. You can increase the difficulty level at your own pace. And one of the things I think is really neat that you can do with tapestry crochet that still looks very complicated even though it's not, is you can take a variegated or self-striping yarn and use that as your 1 color and then make your other color a solid, so that when you work even a simple design with your self-striping yarn as a secondary color, then you can, it looks very complex even though it's not. So here's my finished little sample here, and as you can see, there is a blue heart in the middle of this red square, just like in the picture. So this is tapestry crochet worked back and forth in rows, but it can also be worked in rounds. It can also be worked in half double crochet or double crochet as well. So this is a very versatile technique to know how to do, and I think this is one of the coolest things that you can do with crochet, because you can make up any design you want, and it's kind of like the crocheted version of Fair Isle in a sense, because with knitting Fair Isle is very similar. You have 1 square for each stitch, and you knit 3 stitches in blue and then X amount of stitches in red. It's very similar in that sense, but this is the crochet version, and you can do all kinds of beautiful things with tapestry crochet if you just give it a try. And if this still looks intimidating to you, I recommend just pick up a hook and try it, because it's not as difficult as it might seem. It is definitely approachable as long as you are at least slightly familiar with crochet and you know the basics of how to crochet back and forth in rows and in rounds, and if you can work single crochets and double crochets and all of that, then you are capable of doing this. It might take a little perseverance at times, but I would also recommend trying a simple little practice swatch like this, or maybe several practice swatches before using this in a project, just to get a feel for it, get more comfortable with the technique, and that kind of helps it be less intimidating to just do little bits here and there. You know, try something simple, then maybe you try something just a little bit more complex. But you don't have to, as I said, you don't have to have a dozen colors in one project. You don't have to have, 5 or 6 different colors in the same row. Tapestry crochet can be very complex like that, and you can make really detailed, intricate, beautiful designs, but you don't have to. You can also make very plain, simple, easy to execute designs that only involve 2 different colors in one row, simple designs, simple shapes, and they can still look really cool. And as I said, if you do something, let's say I had a row of hearts on a project and I did a self-striping yarn for my secondary color as the hearts, that would be really cool, and it would look really complex without being as difficult as if you had, 5 colors in your design. So please, please, please give this a try. If you can work basic crochet, if you can even do, stitch patterns that involve combining double crochets, single crochets, etc., decreases, increases, whatever. If you can do that, then you can absolutely do tapestry crochet. It's not as hard as it looks. It might seem intimidating, but if you just try it, then after a few tries, a few practice swatches like this, I know you can get the hang of it. And if you need some help, just post a comment below and I will be glad to help you if you need help. Because I really want this to be a technique that is approachable to crocheters of all skill levels, and I wouldn't want anybody to, miss out on all the cool things you can do with tapestry crochet just because it looks difficult or it looks like it might be too hard. And as with anything, you might need to try it more than once to get the hang of it. You might need a little practice to get the hang of it, but that's okay. Once you get the hang of it, then you can use it in your projects and you can make some really amazing things. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this on tapestry crochet for absolute beginners, then be sure to hit that subscribe button, because I want to post more videos on this topic, because tapestry crochet is one of my favorite crochet techniques, and I want it to be accessible for crocheters of all skill levels. If you try this out, please leave me a comment below telling me how it turned out for you. If you have a question about anything I said in this video, please leave me a comment down below and I will be happy to help you out or explain or whatever. And don't forget to subscribe, making sure you click the little bell next to the subscribe button to be notified of new videos. Thanks for watching. Bye.